that is really my why. I want you to come into the appointment and leave feeling like your questions have been answered. You have a starting place, because I think so many women come in feeling like, I just don't know where to start.
We want to empower you to make fully informed choices about your pregnancy and parenting options. Let's talk about what's next now that pregnancy has entered the chat. Welcome back to Pregnancy Has Entered the Chat. We're so glad to have you guys here with us today. Today, we're joined by licensed staff nurse here at the Pregnancy Network, Lauren Myers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Lauren has experience as an RN who specializes in NICU nursing, so mamas and their babies are dear to her heart. Lauren, we're so excited to have you here with us today. Would you mind telling us a little bit about you and what led you to NICU nursing?
Absolutely. So NICU nursing was not my first job. I was actually a high school math teacher for almost a decade. And then I had started working towards nursing school a couple years before I actually started. But my daughter was born in July of 2021, and I had a really great experience in the hospital in labor and delivery. Ended up having a C-section, which also went very smoothly. And so while I was in nursing school, I felt very compelled to join that particular service line. So the whole time I was in nursing school, I was thinking labor and delivery was the goal. And I did my final clinical hours there. If you're a nurse, you probably know that's called a preceptorship. And I loved it. But then when it came time for me to actually start working, I had the choice between that and NICU and a few other places too. And I ended up choosing the NICU because I felt like it was a really unique opportunity to get to learn critical care and to get an extended orientation with that particular area. And so I did. I got about 3 months of orientation with that and have been there for quite a while now. And it's been such a unique journey because you get to spend 2 or 3 months really with families while they're there waiting for their baby to grow and get to a point where they can go home. And some babies are only there a few days, but the ones you really get to know are there for several months. And so I've been really fortunate to get to know and become close to a couple of families, and am able to still keep in contact with them after discharge, which is great. So we get to visit and go to birthday parties. Aww. And it's like, the NICU can be really, really sad, or it can be really, really happy. And fortunately, most of the time it's happy. So
that is wonderful. That is wonderful. And I know it's a great thing because a lot of times those families are in that transition period and a lot of uncertainty and fear, and having special nurses like you, with big hearts, there to guide them through what's, undoubtedly a really tough time in their life.
It can cause a lot of trauma and anxiety, that's for sure. So, but we try to make it as easy on them as we can, given their circumstances.
I know you're a blessing, and it takes a special person with a special heart to do what you do. So
thanks.
Okay. Well, on today's episode, we're going to be talking all about navigating the first trimester of pregnancy.
Yes.
And I know this is your area of expertise.
Yes.
So let's just jump right on in.
Sure.
There are 3 trimesters of pregnancy.
Yes.
So each comes with its own set of challenges and rewards. What makes the first trimester of pregnancy so critical for both mom and baby?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and a lot of people are confused about when the trimester actually starts and finishes. So a full pregnancy that goes to term is 40 weeks. And so if you break that down into 3, each trimester is about 13 to 14 weeks. Okay. So that first trimester we consider to be, week 1 through week 13, 14. And typically you're not going to get a positive pregnancy test until you're already about 4 weeks along. So you're already about a third of the way through it before you even know that you're pregnant. And in some ways, you can find out even before the positive pregnancy test if you start feeling sick or if all of a sudden you're very, very tired. But the reason that it's so critical is because that first trimester is when all of those really vital organs for the baby are forming. So kidneys are in place, the heart starts to beat a lot of times before you even find out that you're pregnant, if you don't find out till, 6 weeks or so. And so it's an important time of growth for the baby. And so that's why getting good prenatal care, making sure that you're eating well, all of those things are really important. And of course, we hear occasionally from women that they didn't find out that they were pregnant until later in the first trimester or even second trimester. And they're worried about things that they may have eaten or done in the first trimester. And of course, that can be a valid concern, but most of the time, generally, I don't want to make a sweeping generalization, but usually the baby can overcome those things as long as they're not used long term. So what I'm referring to obviously would be like alcohol or, we frown upon deli meats because of the chance of listeria and all those sorts of things. So, but it's okay as long as you are careful about what you eat and what you consume. Once you know that you're pregnant, that's really what we're looking for. But we also want you to make sure you're getting good prenatal care and taking that prenatal vitamin.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
I will say when I was pregnant, I had a thing for hot dogs, and both of my kids turned out just fine. So.
Yes. It's funny because, hot dogs are generally frowned upon, and some mamas will probably agree with this too. With the first baby, you're typically very, very, very cautious about what you eat. And sometimes, so I'm pregnant with my second child right now. It's funny how you tend to become a little bit more comfortable with every baby that comes after that because the first one turned out okay. Yeah. So, and I think to a certain extent, it's great that we feel less anxious with the subsequent children, but we do still want to be careful about the things that we eat. Some things that you don't even realize, like cheese from the grocery store, can get recalled for certain bacteria and things like that. So, we do have to be careful and watchful, but at the same time, not overly anxious about it. Yeah.
Sure. So a big question that we get from a lot of mamas here at the Pregnancy Network is, what is the earliest that you can have an ultrasound?
That is a great question. So technically, a baby is detectable on an ultrasound around 6 weeks. And at that point, typically we can see what we call a diamond ring structure. So it's going to have the yolk sac, which looks like a little round ball in there. And that yolk sac is responsible for feeding the baby until the placenta grows and takes over. And at that point, the yolk sac is actually reabsorbed into the umbilical cord. And then the baby sits on top of the yolk sac, and it's really, really, really tiny. It's a little diamond on top. But sometimes we can see a heartbeat on the baby sometime between 6 and 7 weeks. Sometimes you can see it abdominally. Sometimes we have to do the transvaginal ultrasound in order to be able to see it because it's a little higher frequency, and obviously we can get closer to the uterus. But 6 weeks is typically the earliest. And then we prefer 8 weeks because at that point, it's just a lot easier to see the baby abdominally. You're further along, which means that you're at a lower risk of miscarriage the further along you are. And we typically don't have to do a transvaginal ultrasound at that point. We can just do it abdominally, which is more comfortable for everybody.
I'm sure.
So.
Okay. So with the first trimester, I know sometimes it can kind of get a bad rap, if you will. A lot of women are afraid because, you hear about the exhaustion and food cravings, sometimes food aversions, queasiness. So I'm sure a lot of women are wondering, how long does the first trimester of pregnancy last? And is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Typically there is. So again, we're going to avoid sweeping generalizations because every pregnancy is different. But the first trimester is 13 to 14 weeks. And yes, that is typically when you are going to feel your worst. You're going to have the fatigue, which may be worsened if you have other children and responsibilities that you have to take care of, which most of us do. You may have some nausea. You may have nausea that's so bad that you find yourself vomiting a lot. Sometimes that vomiting can be so bad that it turns into hyperemesis gravidarum, which is, it can hit anybody, even hit Princess Catherine of Wales. So even the most elite among us deal with HG, but there are things, now that we can use to help control that. So if it's bad enough, you can always have your doctor or the hospital prescribe you Zofran or give you some IV fluids to help with those things. But usually those symptoms are going to pass after the first 13 to 14 weeks. And a lot of women describe it as a light switch flipping. And then all of a sudden, once they hit week 14, 15, their energy is back. They feel like some people don't even feel like they're pregnant anymore. They're like, wow, which is great. So you get that little second trimester of relief before third trimester where you just start feeling like, whew, it's time to have this baby. But it makes sense that you are feeling your worst in the first trimester because your hormones are changing so rapidly. Your body is making a lot of progesterone in order to feed the baby and to keep you pregnant. And those hormones can be honestly toxic to your body. They're good for you. They're good for the baby, but they can cause you to feel sick. And also just mentally, they can cause, your brain to kind of think differently. You can start feeling more anxious. A lot of women report feeling a little bit more annoyed with their husbands or partners, which is very typical too. And so I always try to warn dads that, you may see a different side to your girlfriend or wife during this period, but rest assured, everything should go back to normal, and it's okay. All of that is designed to help you, protect your body and protect your baby, and do what's best for you. So, yeah,
awesome. Well, we also hear about how important prenatal vitamins are for mom and baby also. So can you share with us maybe a little bit why they would be so beneficial and why they're so important in the first trimester?
Yes. So prenatal vitamins contain what's called folic acid. And folic acid is vital to the baby's spinal and brainstem development, which is happening in the first trimester. And prenatal vitamins also contain a number of other minerals that are important for mom too. So you really, when you're taking the prenatal, you don't need to take anything else really on top of that unless your doctor prescribes it. And so a lot of women who are trying to get pregnant, we recommend that they go ahead and take it while they're trying to get pregnant so that the folic acid specifically is built up in their body by the time they do get pregnant. And then you should keep taking it after you deliver your baby. So all the way through your pregnancy and then after you deliver, as long as you are breastfeeding, because you still need all of those nutrients from the prenatal vitamins. So the name prenatal is a little bit of a misnomer.
Isn't it?
And I have had women in the past tell me they stopped taking it when they got pregnant because it's prenatal, but that's not what it's really designed to be for. You need to take it the entire time. Some women take it the whole time that they are of childbearing years, which is not a bad thing because you never know if you're going to accidentally have a surprise pregnancy. But it is really important to get that folic acid in your system. Some women do report taking the pill that you swallow makes them a little bit nauseous. I would definitely recommend taking it with water and with food. Okay. You don't want to try to dry swallow it, and you definitely don't want to take it on an empty stomach. You can take it any time of day. It's not like birth control. So you can take it in the morning, in the evening, afternoon, whenever works for you. I say if it causes nausea, first of all, take it with food, but maybe take it in the evening before you go to bed. Yeah. Okay. You can set a reminder on your phone if you feel like you'll forget, but you can take it any time of day. And if the swallow version continues to bother you, the gummy is fine too. You can take the gummy version. So that can be a little bit more palatable sometimes, but you also don't have to buy the most expensive one on the market. So you can you can always talk to a pharmacist at whatever store you're purchasing them at, Walmart, Target, Walgreens, anything like that. But any prenatal vitamin that's got folic acid in it is totally fine.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know here as a part of our program, when ladies come in for their ultrasound and their prenatal appointment, you guys will
have them available. Yeah, we do. That's so if they're not already taking one, then we do have them available. Of course, some women prefer the gummy, which we don't have here. We just have the pill. But but we always offer them, and it's a 1 month supply just to get you through the first 30 days. And then after that, you can go with whatever brand you prefer going with. But keep taking it for your whole pregnancy, and take it if you haven't already started, take it as soon as you find out.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in addition to that, I know prenatals and all that are very important to the first trimester. I know also a lot of women, just finding out you're pregnant can be stressful, especially when you're not expecting it.
Yes.
Healthcare is super expensive.
It is.
And if you're working part-time or you stay at home or whatever the reason is, you may not have it.
Yeah.
So for any of the ladies out there who might be facing a roadblock of not having health insurance and having just found out that they are pregnant, I know finding a practitioner is very important, someone that you trust. Do you have any recommendations on how they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a citizen of the United States, Medicaid is available to you, and you can sign up for regular Medicaid or you can sign up for pregnancy Medicaid. And this is all assuming that you don't have private insurance available through a spouse or your own job. So if you don't have that available to you, Medicaid is income-based and it's based on the number of people who live in your house. So let's say that you are unmarried, you maybe have a partner, but you're not married yet. And you're pregnant and this is your first child, you count as a household of 2. So you and the baby, even though baby's not born yet, counts as a person. So household would be 2. Of course, if you have another child, that would be a household of 3. If you are married, you can count your spouse. And so all of that weighs into qualifying for Medicaid, also based on your income. They have a chart on their website where you can look and see if you qualify. So that would be something that you could apply for. Sometimes it takes, a couple of weeks to get approved. I would recommend that you go ahead and call an OBGYN who accepts Medicaid before you're even approved for it, because there's quite a few, we're here in Greensboro, but of course all over the place, that take Medicaid, and a lot of them will go ahead and make you an appointment on what's basically called presumptive Medicaid, where they understand that you're in the process of getting approved for it and they can wait and file your claim after you've already been approved for it, which is great. But sometimes it can take a little while to get into the doctor's office because there's so many women waiting for an appointment. So you do want to go ahead and get on their calendar. And truthfully, if you've already applied for Medicaid and you're waiting for the approval to come back in a couple of weeks, well, it may be a couple of weeks before you even get to the doctor anyway. So go ahead and call the doctor. Don't wait for the insurance to come back. If you are not a citizen of the United States, here in our area, we have something called Adopt Mom, where it's basically just an organization that helps women who are not citizens or potentially do have their own insurance, but it won't quite cover all of the prenatal care to the point that the woman can afford it. They just have to present a proof of pregnancy to Adopt a Mom. There's an enrollment fee, proof of residency, all those sorts of things. And Adopt a Mom can help cover their prenatal care. So those are a couple of resources in our area that may also have similar programs elsewhere that can help you make sure that you get prenatal care. But it is just so important that you are seen. It doesn't matter if you go to a private office, if you go to one affiliated with a hospital, if you go to the health department, it truly doesn't. But there are so many things that can be detected during that prenatal care that are really important. So for instance, in the first trimester, they're going to go ahead and test you for Down syndrome and other trisomy, I guess, I don't know what you would call them.
Genetic
trisomy issues. Where that could impact the baby's life. And so they can go ahead and let you know about those things, chromosomal abnormalities in general. They can test you for those. Of course, they can also tell you if it's a boy or a girl in the first trimester if you're getting prenatal care, which is great if that's something that you want to know. I am team green. I'm not planning to find out. So which is rare these days, but I understand most people want to know. So you can find that out. And then in the second trimester, they're going to do your glucose test where they test you for gestational diabetes. So that is just diabetes that you have while you're pregnant. Doesn't necessarily continue after you're pregnant. It can, but it's really important for you to know if you do have gestational diabetes, because it can cause the baby to be large for their gestational age. And it can cause some other issues that may lead to a NICU stay if they're not addressed. But it is avoidable. A NICU stay is avoidable if the right things are done, knowing that you have gestational diabetes. But there's no way to know if you don't have prenatal care.
That's right. So you got to go get checked out.
So make sure you get checked out. So if you're having any trouble with getting into a provider because of your insurance, it would be important to let a pregnancy care center near you know so that they can help you with those resources.
Absolutely. So What advice would you give to a newly pregnant mom out there who's listening today to help her navigate through the first trimester as smoothly as possible?
Yes. So this can look different for everyone. Some people want to tell their entire support network as soon as they find out, and that's great. If that is what works for you, that's fantastic. A lot of women wait until the end of the first trimester just to make sure that they are kind of on the other side of the miscarriage risk. Of course, a miscarriage can happen anytime in the first 20 weeks. But as your pregnancy goes on, the risk is lower. And usually after the first trimester, it's lower than about 5%. So a lot of women will wait until then to tell family. That being said, I do think there are benefits to telling maybe one or two very close friends early on. Just in case you do experience any trials along the way, it's helpful to have somebody in your corner who already knows and that you feel like you can talk to about it. So personally, my family may not love hearing this, but I've always told a couple of close friends before I've told them, just because, my friends live close by, my family, not necessarily close by, but my friends would be there to kind of help me through and have similar experiences recently that, they're a shoulder to lean on in case you run into any trials along the way. But a pregnancy care center like ours can be that same support. So we're here to answer questions that you may have during that first trimester and to be a shoulder to lean on if you have concerns or if you're worried that things just aren't going right. So no matter what that looks like for you, if it looks like telling everybody at once,
shouting it from the rooftops.
That's right, which is totally understandable. Or if it looks like waiting a little bit before telling your family, I think it's important that you find some support somewhere. And I understand there's a lot of women too who feel like they're going to face judgment from friends or family or jobs and things like that. And that is totally valid. And so it is 100% your decision how long you wait to tell anyone in your life about your pregnancy. But I still think it's nice to have one or two people in your corner that know what's going on, even if it is just your local pregnancy care center, because we're here to provide that care without judgment.
Absolutely. Yes. So what is your why for serving women here at the Pregnancy Network?
That's a great question. So even though I went into the NICU world outside of here, I always loved sort of the prenatal, antenatal stage for women. I think the anticipation of a child is such an exciting time in life. It doesn't matter if it's the first child or the 10th.
It's so true.
Because every pregnancy is different. And we have a lot of women coming in saying, well, I've got 3 girls and 3 boys, and this is the tiebreaker, So it can be fun no matter what stage of life you're in, but it can also be really, really trying. If the finances aren't there, if, the work situation isn't great, if you feel like you're maybe too young to have a child, that kind of thing, or just not ready. That is really my why. I want you to come into the appointment and leave feeling like your questions have been answered. You have a starting place, because I think so many women come in feeling like, I just don't know where to start.
Yep.
Like I've never considered an OBGYN. If you're in college, you may not even be from around here. Yeah. So you're like, I don't know what my resources around here are. And so when you come to the Pregnancy Network or a similar center, you can get those questions answered. So in a typical appointment, I typically start off asking, what's your biggest need from this appointment? What are you most concerned about? Because until we address that, you may not be able to hear anything else that I say.
Yes.
And so for a lot of women, it's, well, I don't know where to get a doctor, or I just really want to see the baby on the ultrasound, or I don't know how I'm going to pay for this, that kind of thing. And that way we can address those needs and make sure that you leave here feeling like you have the tools to tackle your pregnancy and parenthood. And that's really my why. That is what is most rewarding to me. Of course, the beautiful baby at the end is a wonderful physical reward. Yes. But it is so rewarding for me to see a woman physically relax during an appointment, just kind of like her shoulders drop and she's like, okay,
I'm going to be okay.
I've got a place to start. And a lot of times I'll tell them like, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, so that they know these are the things that I need to tackle this week in order to get started. And then kind of let your doctors and your pregnancy ticket from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That is a wonderful why.
Thank you.
Yes, a wonderful why. And it's really, really encouraging that, we are able to be a support here at the Pregnancy Network and all the resources that we have to offer the ladies in our community.
Yes.
So we thank you so much for just being with us today and speaking so much knowledge and wisdom and encouragement.
Yes.
And for all you ladies out there listening today, we thank you for listening. And we want to remind you that you've got this and you are not alone.
Absolutely. Yes. Good luck to you. You definitely can do it.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.